Welcome to another Excel at the Office how-to video, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make your own buttons for use on a website or um, your slides and other places in PowerPoint. It's really easy. You don't have to kind of try and steal other buttons from online. You can just create them for yourself simply as I outline in this video. So I hope you find it helpful. So I've made some ready-made buttons so far in this presentation. So for example, just using a simple shape and piece of specialist icon text that I'll show you in a minute, you can make an email us button. I've emulated the YouTube kind of graphics there in that kind of TV button if you wanted to include that on your website. There's a Facebook button you can make by just using a circular shape and outlining it. An alternative, a bit more of a kind of 3D effect button, and so on and so on. And you can even, with a gradient fill, emulate the likes of Instagram and other interesting buttons. And this is exactly how I made my own logo as well, the Excel at the Office or Ito logo here. So as a bit of a kind of a clue, it's all about shapes, shapes, shapes. So how you edit your buttons is creating shapes. And I'll show you that in a moment. So here's another one I created with just combining a square shape with some simple thick lines together and grouping them, but I'll show you how to make that. While you're here, I'm just going to let you know I'll share this PowerPoint presentation on my excelattheoffice.com blog, so you can grab it there and play about with it to your heart's content. While you're here as well, you might like this as a template slide for a slide title that you can change the color of if you prefer. But while I was creating this shapes slide, I thought, oh yeah, that'd make a nice simple slide title. So let's go ahead and create a button. So when I say it's to do with shapes, you go on to Insert and choose Shapes. On Microsoft Windows, some application or some older versions of Windows, it's grouped under Illustrations, and then you can choose Shapes. But for now, let's choose Shapes, and I'm going to go for a simple rounded square because those are the kind of buttons that you look quite nice on phones and things like that. So when you're inserting a shape, the way I'm getting it to keep exactly square is by holding down Shift as I extend it to the size I want. I'm going to make this quite big so it's very visible for you to see, and then I let go of Shift and the mouse while I present that, while it loads it for me. Now this yellow little box here, you can move how rounded the corners are. So I think Instagram is quite a rounded icon. This one I'm just going to have quite neat and tidy. I quite like that as a rounded corners edge. And I'm going to have I'm going to remove the outline on this one, so no outline, and instead have the shape itself as the colour. So I quite like this bright blue colour, it's quite nice. And what you can do then, I've also preloaded for you what's a load of text styles. So I've gone through, so you don't have to, all the alphanumeric characters, including the capital letter versions of them, to dig out all the webdings, wingdings, various wingdings, and some other characterful icons that you can use in combination with shapes to create your own bespoke buttons. So for example, webdings, these are kind of icon sets, so you might like, I quite like this for a contact us, so you just go in and grab it from here, these speech bubbles, and I'm going to copy that, either Control C or on a Mac Command C, and I'm going to paste it here. and that's given me a text box with that particular character in, but we can't quite see it yet because it's very, very small. So what we do is I've just aligned it with this uh, outline shape I've made. So we're just going to quickly increase the size of it, and you can start to see where I'm going with this. So I want to quite kind of nicely get it central in that shape. I might even make it slightly bigger, just so it fills the whole shape. So there we go. So that's I'm just moving it slightly to the side. So visually I can eyeball it and say, yeah, that's roughly in the middle. And I'm going to change the colour of that. So you see I've taken its Webdings text box. I'm going to change the colour of that to white because that looks quite nice. And then what I'm going to do is select both the text box and the shape, and then right click and choose group. And that means if I move these about on the page, I only have to select the one thing, and that moves them both together. And the final step for creating your button, because obviously in PowerPoint it might not be, it's not where you want it, you need to create it, save it as an image. So what you can do with that is, if you're using Microsoft Office, I really like on Windows, if you're using Windows, I really like the snipping tool feature, which on Windows 11 will soon become Snip and Sketch. But the snipping tool feature, search for it on your Windows Explorer bar because it's fantastic. It basically gives you a targeted screenshot. So I'm going to do the same for Mac, which is Command, Shift and 4. So that gives me a point where I can target a particular area, and I'm going to nicely grab this shape with a little bit of padding around it. And you see that's brought it into a screenshot that saves it to my desktop, so later on I can save that image, adjust it if I want to, but save it as a JPEG or PNG format for later use on my website. You can add a whole heap of shapes together to create your own logos and things, so let's do another shape, and this time I'm going to do similar to what I'm going to do like a YouTube circle with a play button in the middle. So this time I'm going to again insert, go to shapes, and I'm going to choose a circular shape. And again, if you recall, rather than freeform, because I want an exact circle, I'm going to hold down shift as I create the size of the shape I want. So that's quite nice and big. It will create a decent sized JPEG when I'm done and have saved it to my clipboard. So this one I am going to have an outline, so I'm going to choose my outline color using this drop down menu under the shape format ribbon that automatically comes up when you've inserted a shape. So this is formatting all about your shape. I'm going to have a nice bold red outline. That's a pretty pathetic line though, so what I'm going to do is change the weight of that. Will 6 be enough? No, not quite. So what you can do is open up the format pane to make the line even thicker. So this gives you some alternative ways of the options of seeing your format shape. So the fill color, we'll come to that in a moment, but the line color I've chosen, and I want the width of that much bigger than 6. I want that nice and thick. Let's go for 12, double that. So the fill color, we might have that as a kind of, yeah, nice light grey, looks quite sleek, or you can have it as white. It's down to your preference really, but I think it's going to be quite striking to have light grey. And then finally I'm going to insert another shape, and this time a triangle, and again I'm going to hold down shift as I create the triangle just to keep it a consistent size. As a default, it places it like an upright pyramid, like the pyramids of Egypt. So you'll have to select it and see this piece at the top here, this little icon, rotate. And normally when you rotate it, when you get to 90 degrees or 180 degrees, it kind of snaps to position for you, so you haven't got to do it, you haven't got to be so precise. So I'm going to turn that around 90 degrees. You see now how it's coming along. I've got the play button in the middle, and I've already got this format pane open for my shape, so I'm not going to use the stuff up here. I'm going to go to the format pane. I'm going to fill it in the same red colour. I don't want an outline for this, and what I might do though is add a little bit of drop shadow just to give it a little kind of 3D effect, which if I were to do it from up here, it's this icon here that has some of the shape effects. There's a range of presets, shadows and so on, but as I've got the format pane open, I can do it from here, and more importantly, tailor it to exactly how I want rather than using presets. So you can start off with a preset, and notice that's given it a very subtle shadow. I'll just go back to this section here, but it's not very striking, so I'm going to reduce the transparency somewhat, and also I'm going to increase the distance it is from that triangle, because it's hard to notice this triangle, it's very right next to it, so I'm going to move it out a couple of notches. So there we go. So now that gives it a bit of a 3D effect. If I want to, I can now close this formatting pane once I'm happy with it, because I want to focus on that button I've just created. And again, I'm going to Command Shift and 4 to take a targeted screenshot. If you're one of the majority of the users that uses Windows operating system, then it's, as I mentioned, I use that in my day-to-day work. It's very good, and the snipping tool is where it's at, or soon to be snip and sketch. So I'm taking that looks about right. Take that snip and you'll see it's already captured that. On your snipping tool, it's very easy. You just simply right click and save it or copy it to where you want it. So that's going to save to my desktop, which I'll use later on. And of course, if you want any of these I'll just close that. If you want any of these buttons, shapes and combinations, I'll make this presentation available for you in, as usual with all these how-to videos, I create an associated blog at excelattheoffice.com/blog, where you'll be able to find this presentation to download, play about with the shapes yourself, and also use it as your own template. I'd really recommend, just for your workflow and time-saving tactics, the whole heap of options you can get for buttons, whether it's news announcements using this Loudhailer icon here. There's obviously rewind and other buttons. There's an information icon. With Wingdings, there's a whole, you can create a download file button, for example, with this file icon and shape. So it's all about creating your shape in the background and then overlaid with some of these Wingding icons or text icons to help bring it together as one thing, unless you're doing purely shapes, which you can, there's no end of opportunities, like for example I did with this here. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, I forgot to group these together as I did with the other one, so now I can move this next to here. So yeah, I mean, how I made this button, I just used a shape that's got rounded corners at the top but square at the bottom. For the Instagram replica icon, I used a series of one rounded square shape, another rounded square shape, a circle shape, and I only filled in the back one with that gradient fill. So there you have it, and also obviously with if you can match the text style of some, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, you can do simple text in a shape that gives you a nice icon or button you can use. So I hope you found that helpful. As I say, I'll load this on my site. Please like and share if with other people you might think will find it helpful. Leave your comments below for any feedback and anything else you're struggling with that you'd like a video on. And take a look at Excel at theoffice.com. Until next time, thanks for your time.